He's a Pac-12 network analyst, Elite 11 that we've talked to so many different times. Yogi Roth, welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope all is well, man.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I feel like we did this like 2 years ago, right? I mean, didn't we do this like 2 years ago? And then that only lasted for a few days, and the NFL came calling, and I feel like that we could probably replay the interview from 2016. But I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime.
All right.
Anytime. Love talking.
All right. So now we also might need a little shoulder to cry on, if that's okay. I'd love to get your thoughts on the national championship from last Monday in your state there. What went wrong for Alabama from your perspective?
Well, they got handled, to be blunt. I mean, that's just kind of what happened. They got outplayed in a lot of phases and out-executed at times. And that happens, that's just football sometimes. And they're clearly the two best teams in the country. To me, I have those two, and Ohio State is kind of a notch above everybody. And then there's that next tier, I think, of teams that, aren't that far behind, but they're not in the same conversation in my eyes when you look at all the depth and everything like that. But overall, I thought it started as a game that was just so fun. And for me, I just absolutely loved it. I talked about it a little bit in my podcast this week because I had Vince Young and Matt Leinart on, and they reflected back on the game that they had in the epic title game. And you look at that game with Tua, I could add Jalen to the mix, and obviously Trevor Lawrence. I mean, three guys that character-wise are as good as you're going to find, I think, in the country. Are great examples for high school, college kids, and even some guys in the National Football League. So I love that, personally, just getting to know those guys through the Elite 11, as you referenced, when they were 16. But overall, after Bama kind of roared back and, after the first quarter, man, I was exhausted. I was like, geez, that could have been the whole game. It was so fun to watch. But then Clemson just out-executed them. I thought in really all phases. Obviously special teams being one that was probably highly talked about the following morning on your show. But overall, it was just one of those nights where everything went right for Clemson. Trevor Lawrence, he's going to get more praise than he probably deserves, which always happens because he was on such a big stage. But he delivered. And he's a guy that'll just continue to do that as career goes on. And Tua battled his tail off as much as he could, but I just saw Clemson they just handled Bama in every phase after that first quarter.
Yogi, how hard is it in the heat of the game to make adjustments and to maybe go to something and you're trying to find out something that's working? Because even Nick Saban talked about it. He said there were some of the things that they showed us that we did not practice. He admitted to that at the halftime interview. How hard is it when you're in the heat of the battle to try to make adjustments within what you did coaching-wise?
It's really hard, to be honest with you. I think for me, when I was watching that and even moving forward with this team, the biggest thing is dealing with real adversity when you start to doubt yourself for maybe the first time. And that's what I felt. To me, the biggest play of the game was on 4th and 1. I think Alabama was on their own 35 and went for it in the first half. And I'm saying to myself, whoa, even though they got it, and I think Herbie was talking about, give them some confidence. To me, regardless of if they got it or not, the confidence went probably to both teams, but even more so to Clemson. Like, whoa, Alabama thinks they need to go for it on 4th and 1. Like, if I'm the OC, I'm saying, let's roll. Like, we got them, exactly where we want them, and let's see if we can, just end it, step on their throats. And that's what I felt when they went for it. I was like, whoa. There was that concern to go for it on that 4th down. And they were, Coach Saban knows his team better than any of us combined. And he knew that they were going to have trouble stopping Clemson after that first quarter. So you saw them have to take some uncharacteristic chances, I think, whether it was on special teams or whether it was going for it on 4th down. And it was just one of those games. And it's hard. The adjustment, I don't think, is as hard as the execution and dealing with what is happening right here? We're not really accustomed to this environment. If you look at Alabama's season, and they rolled, obviously, one of the most dominant seasons we've seen in a long time for the most part, other than the Georgia game where they battle back against a team that they should feel really confident against. Clemson is probably net neutral of, hey, this is the team that beat us, we beat them. Like, they clearly haven't flinched in this environment, neither have we, but whoa, we're back on our heels, and what are we going to do? And that's just what I observed. I haven't interviewed Coach Saban, obviously, but that's what I would ask them. That's what I would ask players, is when it got hard, did you doubt yourself at all? What was your self-talk like? We do a lot of that work with the Elite 11 of, what are you saying to yourself? It could be as simple as, oh, man, versus, okay, we got this, we're good. Like, that is a total different mindset in terms of execution in my eyes. It sounds as simple as it sounds, but it's real when you talk to high performers about big stakes environments and how they operate when things get difficult.
We're talking to Yogi Roth, which is a college football analyst. He's also been a coach. He was at USC working with Lane Kiffin and Sark. And I can imagine, I know there was limited time there, but what was it like to hang out with these two? I mean, these are certainly sharp offensive minds. What was it like to even be in the same room and to be able to kind of just learn from those two guys?
It was awesome. Life changer for me. Just getting ready for this, I pulled out my old notepad from 2007 and went through like the quarterback philosophy and beliefs. And I really think that Pete to me is a one percenter. I know he and Coach Saban have great reverence for one another. I know they stay in touch and have incredible respect for what they do. Both defensive masterminds, and guys that are iconic for obvious reasons in the profession. And I don't think people probably talk enough about what Nick Saban does for student athletes and the stories that I'm told by, when I get to talk to some of the players about, the program and how connected the players are, and probably the empathetic side that we don't see when he throws his headset, right? We're not really thinking that. But I think that to build a program and a culture is something that's really difficult, to do both. And he's done that. And I think it's so fun to watch for me, knowing that young men can go there and be part of the quote-unquote process, but it doesn't just include becoming a baller and kicking out to the NFL. Like, we know that happens, but you talk to guys that played there, they've got a lot more to them than just a discipline and a skill set. But I think I'd start there when I comp almost those two situations. And then Sark, much like Pete, they're just personalities you would kick it with all the time. I don't know what Coach Saban's like off the field. I've seen the specials on the Lake House and all those things like everybody else. And I'm sure he's got a mellow side. But Pete and Sark they're different. There's a different approachability probably to them, whether it's on the field or off the field. Really laid back personalities. Obviously, California guys to a certain degree. Pete growing up in Northern California, Sark down here in SoCal. But I couldn't speak more highly of him. Sark I consider him family. And somebody that I think is a rock star in the coaching profession. And what he went through in his personal life is clearly much more important than any coaching job, whether it's Alabama and calling plays or the Falcons or Arizona Cardinals or FC. And what he's gone through and how he's evolved, to me, is just beautiful. And he's the best version of himself that he's ever been, and every day he gets better. So I think that to have a guy like that on your staff, if it happens, I think Alabama's as lucky as anybody in the country. When you think about it, as an offensive coordinator, everywhere he's gone, even when you comp the stats of Sark and Shanahan, I think they're exactly similar when you look at this last season, and the year they even went to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of different issues in the league, and if anybody knows anything about the NFL, it's, every year that it's so different. It's so hard to compare seasons, and what you even had to do there. He came in there and ran Shanahan's system his first year. Last year was able to finally run his own stuff. So we never even had, full year within a program, a couple off seasons to prepare for that. So I say that saying being in the room with those guys was magical. You knew Sark's brilliance was on display. Pete knew it. That's why he hired him when he was 30 as the offensive coordinator of a team that just won 2 national championships. When you think about that, and I'm sure that's why even Nick Saban was cool with him calling plays for the national title game a couple of years ago when Lane left to take the job in Florida. So I love the guy, man. I could talk about him all day long, and I think if it happens, then Alabama's got an incredible guy who's been through so much that for a program where the standard is so high and the stress is probably something we can't even measure for student athletes, he's going to be great for him.
And I know this is probably a 3-hour answer, and we've only got 15 minutes left in the show. When you look at Sark, how would you describe his offensive philosophy? Now, just given the flexibility, I know Coach Saban, whether he gives complete autonomy to it or maybe something else, but how would you describe his personal offensive philosophy?
Well, I think he'll be able to describe it much better than I, because it's evolved, obviously, since we've worked together. But the thing that he's always been ahead of is the curve. You look at what UW was doing when he got there. Look at what we did at SC. You go back and rewind and watch USC Nebraska from 2006 9. And we destroyed them. And it was the first time college football saw slide run, which was, you motion the wide receiver and you influence the defensive end or the edge rusher, and you run them through. And most people would run that tight end or receiver and slow down towards that end rusher and block them. But we just started practicing it one day. We're like, what if we just kept running and just said, just run to the sideline? And it would kind of freeze that edge rusher, and all of a sudden we were getting holes that you and I could run through. And our running backs, who were clearly a little more talented than us, and it was house call after house call. I mean, we just destroyed them. So you go back to then, and some of the trends in college football that were set, Sark was at the forefront of it. I mean, you look back to when spread offenses became a real big deal, but not just air raid, right? More principles, more pro-style West Coast principles. That's where Steve is really his foundation. It's the John Gruden West Coast style of football. It's what we ran at SC forever. It's what he did at UW, but he started running it with 3 and 4 wide receivers because they just didn't have the horses we had at SC to A, protect, B, dictate terms in the run game, or dominate a wideout. And you saw them go from a team didn't win a game to multiple bowl wins. And Chris Peterson, he's in the 1% of coaches, but Sark set that program up for Chris to come in and obviously take it to another level. And what he's done is really clearly impressive. And then you look at what he's done even at SC. With everything he was going through, that offense was still putting up impressive numbers. And his philosophy then was our athletes are better than everybody else. If we spread you out and play point guard at quarterback, and our quarterbacks were always elite, man, we got a chance to be special. And they were, I think it was 10-win season his first year. And then he went through his personal struggles, goes to Bama, probably helped manage that whole situation with Lane really well. I would bet. I wasn't there, but I wouldn't be surprised. And then you look what he does in Atlanta, going to the NFL, be a coordinator, now come back with that experience where he has with his life. I think his philosophy is one that he's going to put his players to be in the best position. So you're getting them the best, top 2 or 3 passer in the country, right? Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, to me is that conversation, plus some freaky wideouts, skill position players, etc. I mean, it's gonna probably feel a little bit to him like it did at SC in 2005 when we lost to Texas in the title, where it felt like a video game every week and you had a ton of weapons. So he's gonna, again, I think if you get him, you're gonna thrive.
Well, and you think about it, Alabama certainly is a talented offense, but there's one part of Alabama that we've been talking about as an audience that we were not very comfortable, not a lot of confidence. If it was 3rd and 1, you didn't really have a lot of confidence that they were going to pick it up. I mean, they'd bring Josh Jacobs in some of the Wildcat formations, and you saw that last week in Santa Clara. That is something that I think if you look at Stark and try to study some of the things, he's not afraid to go back and play a little power football as well, right?
No, I mean, that's his deal. I mean, he's, running a football and dictating terms and having an identity is him. I mean, you're not going to get air raid. You're not going to get that even that mindset of, say, we're going to out execute you. I mean, that's a general thought around the air raid is we run what we run so much better than you, and you have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to prepare. There's no chance you can get ready for our route combination, which is why the air raid usually wins all regular season, and sometimes they struggle in the bowl season, right? Because of that reason, because you have the time to rep only those few specific route combinations. As a very general example, Dark's going to come in, and his mentality is, we're going to try to make people quit, and he has the horses to do it. So it's not like you're going in there and trying to recreate a culture within a program, right? You're not saying, you're coming from a spread team saying we're going to be Stanford, for instance, and pound the football all day long and have an extra, offensive lineman in the game. He's going to look at his personnel grouping and say, okay, we're going to be, I'm just putting words in his mouth here, but I would imagine him saying something along the lines of, with our quarterback and the play action game that we have and the backs we have, man, if we can force teams to play single high defense, it's over. It's over. And that starts obviously with running the football and then manipulating them with the RPOs. I mean, Sark was one of the first guys in the country to do the run pass option. And go back and watch games at UW where he was just kind of experimenting with stuff like that, and even at times at SC. So I think that again, like he could probably go. Clearly, he can go to a lot of different places. You want to be a head coach in college, Alabama is probably the best place.
Well, and certainly you got to pull for a guy like that. I mean, listen, I like stories, and certainly he's had some adversity in his life, and you pull for that, and there's no better way to get that. Obviously, it's on track, but that slingshot in Tuscaloosa with working under Nick Saban, and listen, I'd love to see the story. But, Yogi, if you can hear the people, can you hear the people outside yelling? Because when you made a comment a couple of minutes ago, my Twitter began to blow up. Make people quit. That brings a lot of smiles to faces in Tuscaloosa when you said that a couple of seconds ago.
Well,
that's Alabama football. That's Alabama football. Bloody people's nose, but we've got away from that a little bit.
Well, I think all of football's gotten away from that for a bunch of reasons. One, if we're going to be truth tellers, the game, it doesn't even allow you to, be full contact multiple days in a row in college football. Right? So let's just start there as a reality, right? And then where guys come from. I'm on the high school circuit, every off season, every summer, and it's just a different deal than it was 14, 15 years ago, 18 years ago. When I was playing, let alone being an analyst or coaching, it's just different. It's a different era. It's a different era of football, right? I mean, Nick Saban was the first guy to say, hey, we need to not do these spread up tempo schemes, and now they run elements of spread up tempo schemes. Like, the game clearly has evolved. Where everybody in college football is doing stuff like this. The difference is it's the mentality, and Sark is great with that. You talk to any quarterback that's played for him. You're going to be trained in the mentality to gain mastery around your craft. And that's just the truth. His quarterback, Tua, will absolutely, if it happens, will love him. He'll be masterful in specific situations, masterful. He will understand defenses on a level that will just, be a part of the evolution of a young man's career, heading into his third year at the quarterback spot. He'll protect the football. He won't waste plays. He'll play, Sark's goal will be to get him to be the fastest mental player on the field. And I don't know the practice policy, but I imagine you're probably not allowed at a lot of them, but he would make practice as hectic as possible on the quarterbacks to create that environment, which I'd imagine the Alabama defense does as well every day during practice, just by their sheer presence and mentality of the head coach. So I think he'd be great. I think he'd be the, a yin to Coach Saban's yang, at least from how we perceive that. He's such a personal guy, and I really think that it's hard in coaching now with the pressure that's on coaches, the money that's being spent on coaches, how coaches get bounced and moved so quickly in college, right? College looks like the NFL now when you look at the transactions in terms of coaches moving all the time. It's starting to look like that with players entering the transfer pool at times, all the time. So I think Sark will come in and be a great, a really great cog and ingredient that'll help that program. Because to me, and you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to give you the answer anyway. To me, the biggest concern I would have for Alabama, and I would bet Nick Saban's already addressed it, but I don't think this team and this program can be motivated by Clemson. The game ended, they got smoked, the whole world knew it. Clemson's now the team, the guard has shifted, whatever, all the headlines you could dream of. But if this program is like, okay, we got to go take it back, I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that's grounded in the real stuff that makes elite programs elite, because it's based on somebody else. And I think that Coach Saban has probably already said that multiple times already to his team, I'd imagine. And Sark's going to be able to champion that. And I think that's what this program needs to do, because they're at a point now where their backs are against the wall, right? They're not in first position. The last time that happened was year one of Coach Saban's reign, right? Ever since year two, they've been in first position, even if they lost a title game or lost on a big stage or didn't even get to it. They were still that team. So I think if Sark comes or whoever goes, whether it's Chip Long, there's a lot of talented coaches out there that are rumored for these jobs. Their personality fits, I think, will be great for the program, and Coach Saban will be great for them. And I think that's clearly the draw of why a lot of coaches go there, to bolster their reputation and kind of get that stamp of approval. And athletic directors have proven to want to hire guys that come through his coaching tree.
Yogi, you're awesome, man. Thank you again for being a part of the show, man. We appreciate you allowing us to pick your brain. If you want to connect with Yogi, it's very simple. On the Twitter account, straight up, Yogi Roth, The Yogi Roth Show, season number 4 right now. Check it out, yogiroth.com. I appreciate you, man. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
You got it, brother. Later, man.